Today we have Father Michael Maginot. Did I pronounce it?
Maginot.
Maginot.
Okay.
Apologize. So you're known in the region as the Exorcist. So we were curious. We want to know how you got started in that practice, per se.
And obviously you went into you became a minister in 1983? Or?
Yes, yeah, priest. I was ordained a priest in '83, and but the Gary case, famous Gary case, is my first case.
Okay.
And actually, I just happened to be on call for the Catholic priest chaplain of the Methodist hospital system, who took his days off on Friday and Saturday. So whenever they needed a priest for an emergency, I would get called. So that was Friday morning. So I'm just doing my normal Bible teaching and such class and I got the call from the chaplain, Methodist chaplain at the Methodist hospital, which was the North Campus, that a boy walked up the wall backwards, and they need an exorcism, a priest, Catholic priest, to do that.
And the hospital called you for that?
Yes, the Catholic priest, the Catholic Methodist chaplain.
Okay.
The Methodist chaplain.
So when you get that phone call, what is going through your mind?
Well, obviously, if that happened and was witnessed by a lot of professional people, there was something there.
Sure.
So, and I said, yes, I will. First of all, I have to get permission from the bishop to do an exorcism. But it sounds like there's something there, so I'm willing to do the investigation. So feel free to give my contact information to the family, and I'll meet with them sometime, probably after all my weekend activities.
Sure. So at that point, let me digress a second. It goes back to your training and experience, correct? Every priest isn't qualified to do an exorcism.
Yeah, so pretty much you have to be designated by the bishop to an exorcism. So in my case, I had no formal training. So each case I have to get permission from the bishop. So, but you can get a general permission if you went to Rome for training and things like that.
So how do you know what to do at that point?
So actually, I really didn't. I was a canon lawyer, a church lawyer then, so I had training in how to do investigations,
sure.
I guess. But so I knew enough about that to get a questions and just to present a case to the bishop to see what he would recommend. And so I did find out that they had no exorcists in the diocese. We never had a case like this.
Okay.
And so, and since we had no experience, I did need a ritual. So it was suggested to me that I go to either the Exorcist in the Archdiocese of Chicago or to the one in Indianapolis to see if they had that. I consulted with both of them. And they mentioned that there was a new rite out, but there was a lot of complaints among the exorcists throughout the English-speaking world that they did not think that this new rite was very, effective.
Is it because it didn't translate? Because obviously the
it was
rites
pretty,
are a different language, correct? And when you come to the English-thinking languages, a new rite. When you say a new rite, it's not like writing a new law per se. It's just a different translation of something that's older than us.
Actually, it wasn't really a translation. It was really redone. It was kind of, they considered the old thing just too old and too crude, and they were going to really polish
politically
it
correct
up.
it.
And make it really polished.
Okay.
Yeah. So as I kind of would say, it was like they're trying to do a charm offensive. They want to take all the real, the insulting things,
sure.
out that seemed to. It was designed to make the demons mad,
right.
That part of it.
Seems counteractive for the devil, right?
Yeah, so, and so that's what you're trying to do is get him to walk out,
Right.
So you do want him to go storming out. And so they were making it, taking a lot away from the certain things that do aggravate the demon, like you get it more into the name of Jesus and such, instead of the I exorcise you, I adjure you.
Sure.
And so that I is aggravating to a demon who thinks they're greater than human beings. So they don't like that. But if you do it in the name of Jesus, it doesn't bother them as much.
It's so interesting.
Okay, before we go on, I want to let you know, because I know you've probably told your story many times.
Yes.
We purposely stayed away from any other interview because we want to tell a story fresh for our audience.
Okay.
We watched Demon House.
Okay.
I felt like you weren't in it enough.
Okay.
And certainly want to tell your story.
Okay.
And pick your brain.
Okay. Sure.
Not just that experience, other experiences. And,
Okay.
And just like we're going over your past, your
Okay.
history.
So at what point? So we'll get back into it. So you meet with the family and and then the child that walked up the wall.
Actually, the 3 children were taken away by Child Protective Services.
Okay.
And one was put into a psychiatric children's lockdown unit, and the other 2 were given to the Carmelite Sisters as foster care.
Okay.
And so they were away from the mother and grandmother for 6 months, as it turned out.
While this investigation
was taking place, and after I did do the exorcism for LaToya, and that seemed to solve the problem, but they still had to go through the court system, to kind of verify that. So
Sure.
I actually even talked to the psychiatrist who was in charge of that case too, and so it wasn't until the fall that finally the children were released when LaToya went down for her court hearing.
So when you're going through your assessment, and obviously you're a litigious person, you have a law degree. So with that being said, you're going through your assessment, you're going through your investigation. At some point, you're ruling out things. Is that correct? You're
Yes.
ruling out psychiatric issues.
Yes.
You're ruling out making sure they're not schizophrenic or bipolar and what. How many lines do you have to cross off, or boxes do you have to check before you're like, okay, this is a bona fide possession case?
This case was kind of easy because of the witnesses that saw the boy walk up the wall backwards. So that there's no medical issue or no psychiatric issue with that. It was definitely one of the signs. It would be called a levitation.
Right. Now, have you seen the video? Because I know there's a video out there of it.
Not the there's nothing of the levitation.
There's nothing of the levitation.
No,
okay,
no.
I was wrong on that.
The reason why you said that is because we were told that that the hospital has video that they've never released and won't release. That's why we asked.
Oh, I never heard that.
Because
it is. I mean, you got children in a
HIPAA.
and also in a emergency room. So I don't know. I don't know if that is their cameras there.
Yeah,
sure. Especially
It may have been when they're bringing the children in or something. There might be that
some surveillance footage.
More surveillance. I'm not sure if they could really go into the examination rooms
without.
Especially with a child.
Yeah, that makes sense to us.
Yeah, okay.
And having said that, so when you heard this story initially, when this was told to you, was there doubt in your mind? Like, there's no way a kid will, or I guess I'm trying to understand where you draw your faith from. Obviously, God. And I'm just, is there more to it than that? Well,
And in your life, have you heard of?
No, that was pretty
Exorcisms?
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I was familiar with the Exorcist and
sure.
and exorcisms and such, but usually, it may be witnessed by family members or one person.
Sure.
And so a levitation or something, and in fact there was another levitation that occurred, and that was the cousin was staying over with the girl, the oldest girl, and during the middle of the night, she screamed, and LaToya and her mother went into the room and flipped on the lights, and they saw the girl plop back down onto the bed.
Wow.
When that happened, And she said she screamed because she was floating. She woke her up when saw her floating in the air. She screamed, and she was staying there until the lights went on, and then all they would see is kind of like a plop.
Right. They catch the tail end.
They
of
that,
right.
Yeah.
So when you're doing the exorcism, and you're at your church when this is being done, or
the major rite, which was with the permission of the bishop, those three were done in the church. The exorcists from the two archdioceses I consulted with said, go ahead and before you get make your final pitch to the bishop to get permission, just see if a minor rite will work, which is the rite without the bishop's permission. You just go through the rite once, and you got to be careful because usually when you go through the rite, you're looking for there's an aggravation. You want to keep it going, and or you're looking for it to abate, to get less and less. But if it's consistent, then you don't want to keep that going because you could actually wear out and harm the person. And in her case, when you put on the crucifix on her forehead, she would convulse. And that convulsion was like continuous. And then I would take it off.
Trauma.
That would be
trauma.
Was this at the
because
house?
their muscles and everything
Right.
are being used like that. So I did it 3 times, for I don't know if I would say 20 seconds to 30 seconds, 20, just enough. And it's not going anywhere, and I would stop it, and she would cease, and then I would try it again. The same thing would start right up, but it wasn't getting worse or getting better.
Sure,
So
it's just a steady pace.
it was
This
steady.
is at the church at this point.
This was at the house.
This was at the house.
And that's what made me ask for permission from the bishop.
So when you walked into that house, did you feel anything? Like did it?
Now, when I walked in the house, there didn't seem to be anything out of the ordinary. And usually I would bless it in the beginning, so you're kind of told, and that's a good place to start, see if anything happens, manifests. And I did the blessing, and there was no manifestation of anything. So I then went into the story, and pretty much for about 2 hours, there was nothing of incident happening, But there was one thing they mentioned, and it was actually that the time they left the house, or really were seeing they needed help big time, was when the girl levitated.
Sure.
But that was in the evening. But they had a family get-together, and all the kids, first that girl was pulled off the couch, and then one of the boys was kind of thrown into the freezer, and the other boy was thrown out of the bathroom. And this happened in front of everyone.
Wow.
And they were complaining about stomach ailments and such. And what would happen is it would happen to one, and then the one would complain about being sick, and they'll kind of try to make her feel better. Then it'd be interrupted by the other one, and also the same thing. And then the third one also had that, but it was always individual. It was never two things at once.
So if it was one entity, it was bouncing.
So it seemed like it was jumping from
Right.
one child
That's
to
so
the other.
interesting. Well, do you believe that house had something going on with it?
Yes, later when we did the examination, one of the policemen saw that underneath the stairs was there was a cement poured basement, and underneath the stairs it looked like it was cut out, and there was sand or dirt.
Okay.
And so they always wanted to see, what's that all about, and so we got permission to come back and dig up whatever may be there because they were renting the property, so we got permission from both.
Sure.
To do that. And they brought in a dog first just to see if the dog
cadaver
was
dog?
It was they couldn't get the cadaver dog. There's only one that's kind of in the whole area in Chicago, and they said you use that to go through like forest,
Sure.
or, But if you know a kind of a location, you could take any dog and they'll react, So they could take the dog through the house, and it didn't seem to be with any reaction that way, and so we did start digging up, and we found two sets of three objects each, and one at a 2-foot level, and then another at a 2.5-foot level, about 6 inches below that. And it seemed to be the first level was it seemed to be the second thing, that was buried. So
Okay.
the first thing, and it seemed that was kind of things for an old lady, and the second one was for a young boy. And so we found, I think it was first we saw, it looked like an undergarment
Sure.
of the lady. And then let's see, what was it?
Was there a fingernail?
Oh, then we saw a fingernail. And then there was a fingernail that we found, and that they were getting, looks like something. And then we found like a lid to a oval lid, and we were looking for the container or whatever
Like
that
almost
was.
like an older jewelry box, or
It was like a tea kettle
understood.
type of lid. It was bent. It was crunched in half, but we didn't find what the container was. So it was just that. And then when we went the second level, we were finding socks, two very simple socks, like cotton socks.
Sure.
And without the stripes or polyester or anything, so look about the same as the undergarment. It was the same cottony type of thing, not modern
Sure.
polyesters or anything. And what was interesting with those socks, we thought that they cut out the foot part and they kept the ankle part. It would be later on that we discovered that they put the foot part underneath into the ankle part. So what we thought was the cut was
Right.
actually
It's
the
inverted.
frayed end, and the clean end was where it was tucked in.
Interesting. So they were purposely placed there.
So
That's the point.
that was purposely placed there. And then we also saw something that looked like a bone. That's what they were really examining very carefully and sweeping and taking pictures
Sure.
and such. And they kind of tapped it and had a plastic thing, so they picked it up, and it looked like one of those old-time shoehorns.
Sure, yep.
that was broken in half lengthwise.
Okay.
So it was like half a shoehorn.
It's weird. It makes you wonder, like, who lived in that house,
Yeah,
and
yes.
why did they stop digging? What I would call shallow. Like, why didn't they try to dig deeper and deeper and deeper?
Now, yeah, so we went about, say, 3 feet deep, and then it looked like pristine sand, So, in other words, the sand there was
No
boiled.
disturbance, right.
No disturbance. So it looked like just whatever was natural.
So, Father, would you say that you believe that people are haunted, or can inanimate objects be haunted as well? I think
Yeah.
that's a very interesting question. I've always pondered
Okay.
that.
Yes, it could be a person, a place, or a thing. But they do a person or a place. I mean, they do a place or a thing to get at a person. So that's what their ultimate goal is, to possess or attach to a person. But they will use things. But they do need human help. So some sort of ritual would have to be done on that thing by someone purposely attaching a demon to that to get at someone. But also the demon has to agree to be attached to that too.
Can we get into the theology of
Okay.
it just a little bit? What's very intriguing to me is this is as old as time, right? How in this day and age is this still like a taboo subject to talk about, when it seems this is a very real issue that's happening? I'm not going to say it's plaguing society, but to believe in God, to believe in the devil, is to believe in angels and demons, correct? So with that being said, how is it that that it's still, I don't want to say frowned upon, but I think that the word is, it's still taboo in society, that people just have their blinders on, they don't want to believe
And
it.
is it considered? Are they in purgatory? What's the space?
Okay. Well, for a demonic possession, for a demon to be involved, a demon is a fallen angel. And so that goes all the way back, even before the visible universe was created. So there seems to be, even in Scripture, a mention of a darkness, something existing there that's kind of chaotic. Okay. And it looks like God created the angels first in his image and likeness, but without really anything to do. And so they're kind of, the chaotic thing is they're all bumping into, they're just
Sure.
kind of just bumping into each other. It's kind of chaotic. And so God decides to make the visible universe by giving them something to do. So he's giving commands, and someone, has taken over those commands. So let there be light. So he creates the light, but then there's someone brings in the light, and that's where Lucifer, the name, comes from. So is a bearer of light. So and then all these other commands, let there be this, that, and other things. Seems like all the other, angels at that time in their order, will take care of this, take care of that, oversee this and oversee that. And when it comes to be a problem, because it seems like during creation everything is good and very good and, according to God's plan. And God also intended for the angels to be guardian angels for man. And that seems to be where the divide comes, because the angels that fall consider man to be lesser than them. But they're also jealous because God gave them dominion over the earth,
Okay.
where they dwelt at. They had, the heavens and, galaxies and stars, sure, and all planets and all that. But they didn't have, and so Adam could name all the animals, and so that seemed to aggravate them, or certain ones of them. And so when God gave the first ones, command to be guardian angels to Adam and Eve at that time, so the first two, so Lucifer and whoever the second one is, that they actually rebelled. And the only thing that they were really in charge of was to guard the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It was they weren't to get in the way, but they were to tell them that's the big commandment. And,
okay.
And they actually seemed to take that bite to see what evil was like, and they kind of try now tempting a man to also and turn them away from God, who says if you know knowledge, if you know the evil, then you know what God knows. And so, and that's kind of what they were tempted to do, and they got mankind to also get involved in that. And that created the rift. And that's where kind of St. Michael would come in, because it seemed like God was, looking for someone to guard mankind. And now that, they brought the sin into the world, and now they needed, more guidance
right,
for that. And it seemed like all the upper echelons, he's going through the ranks, and they all were siding with, Lucifer over God, saying, no, we agree that, mankind should take care of us instead of we taking care of mankind, and God as a father, had that. And so it wouldn't be till Michael, you got to get down to the archangels, the second to last rank, that he goes through and says, who is like unto God? And so he would agree to be the guardian angel of Adam, and it's believed Gabriel following his footsteps to be the guardian angel of Eve, and then all the other archangels and angels followed in his footsteps, and when then they took their places in heaven, and they then fell to the earth, and we're now trying to take over the earth, and try to get mankind to rebel against God as they did.
Sure.
So that's the big fall.
Okay. That.
Another podcast where I feel really dumb.
Yeah. No. This is so intriguing to me, and I know we're relatively limited on time. So
okay.
But so I just have so much substance I want to get to that.
Okay.
We could talk for probably days on pondering.
We might have to. We might definitely have to do a part 2 and get back into.
Right.
Oh my gosh!
Because I have so many questions about that.
Okay.
But besides that singular exorcism at the Hell House, the Demon House, have you been involved in subsequent exorcisms?
Yes, I have done 17 other subjects.
Okay.
17.
Wow. Yes. Yeah.
And that's going through the various stages of your investigative techniques to ensure that there's no psychosis or whatnot.
So each one would have to be approved by the bishop. Now, some involved family members, so it was kind of... So there were one was actually a family of 5 that I did. So that's 5 of them.
And are these local? Like, what's the radius?
Pretty much, it is local. I I did go to the bishop to get a general permission because when the case became famous, I was getting calls all over the country. So I did, and he didn't want me to go anywhere,
Sure.
And also and I said, well, they're willing to come here. And he says, no, let each bishop deal with them. So he didn't want to.
Because there's politics involved in that, though.
Who would
right?
finance that? Just curious. Like, if you had to travel.
Yeah, so they would probably have to pay. Yeah, so we don't charge or anything, but that's the thing. If you have to come a distance, the demon knows that, and it thinks it could outlast the money. So they'll run out of money or something. So that's why you do have it locally.
The root of all evil.
So with that being said, have you ever experienced it with? So that's 17. 18, 19, so you've done 19 exorcisms.
No, I would say I should say 17 altogether.
Altogether, okay.
Subjects.
So 17 subjects.
Okay.
And have they attached to you?
That was my question. Have you ever had any negative effects of the exorcism?
Yes, I would. I mean, they won't attach to me because you have to be careful. So I go by all the rules, and
You might have to bless my house before you.
Okay. So
there's rules in place to safeguard
ourselves
the exorcist,
and everyone involved in it.
Okay.
But they will attack to try to prevent it. So I was, in Latoya's case, I needed to find out the name of one of the demons because it was quite clear that there was one more demon there, and there was no manifestation, to kind of give a name. You could just go to the right, and nothing was happening, So it did get rid of one, but we knew that there was another demon involved, mainly because she couldn't wear any religious or hold on to any religious objects. So we saw she could, pray or hold a rosary and put on a crucifix, and we also gave her this. Special rosary, which is a blessed Benedictine medals, which were the beads, and and so she was going to take it back to Indianapolis, and as we were walking by, that was the first exorcism where when we did put on the crucifix, nothing happened. So it was really the most boring exorcism there because it looked like everything's gone, but when we saw something glimmering in the sunlight. And we saw, this is that rosary, and it's torn, and there's a piece here, and there's a piece here, and a piece there, and this is right where our car was, and so it was torn into 5 pieces, and so we put them all together just to make sure we had the whole thing, and then she calls the next morning saying, I lost my rosary. I looked in my purse, I can't find it. Look all in my car, and so I don't know what happened. I said, it looks like it was torn to pieces in our parking lot where you were parked. So I said, okay, there's something more that needs to be done, but you didn't have any manifestations, so I don't know how to get the name and such. So we will need a name because
Why is that? I'm curious. You say you need a name. You need a name of the demon.
The demon.
So every demon has an individual name.
So each demon has a name. It has
Okay.
their own name, and so that they like to work in the shadow. Now, and some will like to have a cult around them, so
And
they're kind of famous. They may be gods and things like that. So they have all kinds of rituals and things like that surrounding them. Others just like to be quiet and because once you have the name, you then it's like putting the spotlight on them. As a if they're like a cop, with his
You pull them out of the shadows,
pull
right?
them out
You
of the
bring
shadows,
light,
and you
right?
see them, and then they can't hide.
So you said they're fallen angels, but like, is this similar to like reincarnation? Is that a thing? I mean, are these?
Yeah. So now demons, they live. They're not eternal because they have a beginning. They're created, but they don't. They're immortal, so they don't die, and but they don't reproduce either. So don't have a body. While we do have a body, and we are immortal with an immortal soul, but our body will die, but it will also be resurrected, like Jesus' body. So that and God's creation too will be that when Jesus comes again, the second coming.
It's like two planes, two dimensions living together.
Yes, so there is the invisible universe and the visible universe. Now, the invisible universe is mainly the spiritual.
Spirit
This
realm.
might sound like
realm.
a dumb question, but regular church-going believers, they don't dig this deep into this subject, right? I mean, most people don't know this stuff. Am I
Yeah.
correct? I mean,
Because
where
it
does
really
one learn
isn't in
this?
the Bible. It's
Right.
hinted at,
Right.
but it is in extra biblical literature. So we do find out, so the rabbis and such in the Old Testament times were always discussing, the fall and how did Adam and Eve, and they knew about of angels and demons, and where would it appears later in the Bible, but where did it all began? So there are things where the rabbis speculate on these issues.
And did I read it correctly? Did you study in Rome?
Yes.
So, yeah.
And also, I did do biblical theology as well.
So with that being said, what's the purpose? What's the demon's ultimate goal? Why possess a teenage girl in that specific instance? What's the ultimate goal of that demon?
And I could be wrong, but I'm going to guess that they weren't like a super religious church-going family.
No, actually, you can be. Possession doesn't necessarily mean that the person is on their side. So usually when they're seeking exorcisms, they want to be freed.
Sure.
And so there is, it can be curses and other things people they got involved with, or curiosity. May have played around with something they shouldn't have.
So
and things
it's not
like that.
exclusive to a certain religion. This is a problem of mankind.
Mankind, yes. Yeah.
But with that being said, what's the advantageous point for the demon
demon.
to seize somebody's body?
Because they could are able to do things when the person allows them, or there's a permission. They need a permission of some sort to take possession of something. So a place, a person, or a thing, and so it could be the person themselves, could be someone else doing a curse, but they need some sort of permission. And it enables them to do things, because if they, it takes a lot of energy since they have no body.
Right.
So, like if we move something here to there, and we could do it very easily.
Sure.
But they have to, focus all their energy to kind of levitate the thing and get it over there, and they're exhausted after just doing a little thing like that.
Demons get tired.
So because they have to and get energy somewhere and all this. So
Is that why battery drains?
and
happen
so
during
they always have to get
investigations?
energy and things. So if they do want to levitate something or move something or do something, they have to focus their energy to do that, and then they're exhausted. But if they tell someone to do something, then they could get that but or else they get into a body. They could move it themselves. They could attack someone themselves.
So it's really not.
It's almost like a jealousy thing too.
It starts with there's a jealousy because they don't have a body, so they're angry at God for
casting them.
for not giving them that. They can't reproduce. So there is a jealousy with mankind.
Sure.
On the fallen ones, the good angels. They're happy, being on God's side. So that's no problem.
So on a spiritual realm, a demon coming over to this realm of mankind, if it attached, and I'm just going to use an example, if a demon attached to me, the demon's physically, does it affect the brain? Is there any studies that are out there that can relate that something happens in your brain that a demon's attached?
Demons communicate the same way angels communicate, which is telepathically. So
Okay.
they put ideas in our head.
Okay.
So good or bad, depending. But so that actually got a lot. That's called also temptation on their part. That they need no permission for. They could communicate with whoever they want, even including Jesus. So
Okay.
so the temptation is you can't stop that. But as far as going further, to scratch someone or to punch someone or to get people into fights or or whatever, where they can take over a part, so they want to take over one part and get more and more control over other things. So that's when possession kind of comes in. It takes time for them to take over a part of the person's, but so that they can do something. And usually it's to try to do something to hurt someone else, usually.
And that's the ultimate plan. So
Ultimate plan,
do you think the daughter LaToya was the target of the demon because she was the weakest and not necessarily the focus of who that rage was against? And well, I guess to maybe simple that question up, do you think that the demon possessed LaToya with the intent to hurt somebody else with that intent to do so?
Yeah, I do believe that there was the thing that brought in the demons outside of the house was her ex-boyfriend. But she discovered that he was married. He was a married man. And so it seems, and now this is conjecture on our part,
Sure.
we did track him down, but he didn't want to cooperate in any way or anything like that. And so this is just conjecture that since he was kind of going after LaToya as a married man, he may have probably done the same thing or learned the same thing, either his wife or he kind of maybe, you could do kind of rituals to make people try to fall in love with you.
Okay.
And different things like that.
Like a Santeria type.
So we didn't know exactly what he did, or she did to him, but he learned that mainly because we did find that her shoes were missing. She had Air Jordans, and also pictures of her and her family were missing. And when she kind of recalled, she always thought one of the kids or family members took these things, and then she realized it may have been him, because mainly the wife did find her phone number in his phone and called her and says, "What are you doing with my husband? And who's your husband?" He said, and so she kind of said, "Well, you will regret ever messing with my husband." She says, no problem. I don't want anything to do with it. He's
Right.
married. He's your problem. So, so we don't know.
It's almost like maybe a voodoo.
So-
But how does that explain the dirt and the?
Now that actually is from the house. So it's actually a combination.
So we got two different
sources.
Because you found multiple spirits.
Yeah,
or
so,
I don't want to say spirits. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
no, they found it. Actually, they kind of created the owners of that house created a portal, because when you do this stuff, you actually make it possible for you're opening up for demons coming
So
out.
did the actual the person that owns the house now, was it that person or previous homeowners?
It was the original owners.
Original.
We believe.
Okay.
So they're all dead, deceased. So so we're just conjecturing.
Sure.
Someone did that.
Sure.
And judging from what people saw, they saw an old lady in a white dress with red eyes. The kids saw her in the backyard twice. One, the youngest boy, would always talk to a friend, an invisible friend. It seemed there was a husband and a wife, but we couldn't find out if there was a child that died.
Sure.
And I think what they were trying to do, what you call necromancy, to conjure up the dead. So it seemed like she was very much, in anguish, and got into spiritualism to conjure up her son, and that's probably what she tried to do. And I think the husband cooperated with that by doing the digging.
We're talking about this. You've seen the devil.
No, actually, those are
demons.
probably human spirits, which you would call ghosts, which are distinguished from demons.
Okay, I was actually
So-
going to get there.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we'll save that for.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I guess we can get right into it, because
Okay.
I guess I was.
We've been talking about this a lot.
Oh, okay.
For a couple episodes, I've had experiences, and
But have you ever squared off against a devil himself, or has it been just demons, or is it one? Well, every demon's individual,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So obviously, have you ever seen or faced off against the devil himself?
Getting back to when I got the name, she mentioned.
yeah, we never got that.
Yeah, we didn't finish that
Yeah,
story,
yeah.
but we were trying to. She was trying to figure out how to get rid of demons and such. Her friend had a computer, and so she went online to Google how do you get rid of demons, and there was a whole list of them and such. And so she was looking through the list and reading each thing, and one looked kind of like similar to what was happening to her children and such. So she went to look at the name, and it blanked out. The computer just turned off. And so she had to, get it back on and reboot it and everything. And she went back to find it again, and then looked again, and it went off again. Now this time her friend says, "You're not putting your demons on my computer."
Right.
And she was getting a headache and everything. So and she would never have anything to do with Latoya again. So she didn't know what to do. And I said, "Well, let me give me that website. I'll try to find it, and then what we'll do is I'll print it out, the list, and you could just point it out to me, and you won't be able to interfere." And so but I didn't want to have that list too long, so it was that my day off was the day before her second exorcism on Friday, so it was a Thursday, and I had all kinds of trouble printing it, So I tried all kinds of different tricks, and I was about ready to give up because I was going to go on my bike ride, and all of a sudden it started printing. And then so I had that, and so I went out on my bike ride. And when I got all the way to the end and turned around, all of a sudden I was like thrown. My bike was like thrown off to the side. All of a sudden I'm on the ground. And
You were thrown off your bike.
so I was on the bike, and and I was down on the ground, and I go, what happened here? I mean, I was, and then I looked. Oh, my handlebars are 45 degrees off. So I thought, oh, my handlebars are loose. But I tried to, put them back, and I had to use all my,
Oh my gosh.
pound it back, to get it back so I could ride the bike again. And so I was kind of, oh wow, I mean that's a lot of force there.
Sure.
And then things were happening, and one of the rules is you can't let a demon know what will stop you, because once it does know what will prevent you from going forward, it will use that 10 times worse.
Okay.
So you just need to plow through that. So there was all kinds of things that were happening on the way back that was going to tried to get me to call someone to pick me up and take me home.
So the temptation.
So that was
right?
the temptation
Okay.
to call home when I saw this strange thing happen. This and then
Sure.
there was a series of things, and then finally it kind of gave up. But that was a real battle there.
So when you say a series of things, obviously you're not allowed to say the demon's name, right? Or
I can't say the demon's name, so
Right.
that's another rule.
right.
You
'Cause
cannot.
Cannot, because it's out there, and
Okay.
if you say it, you could invite it in.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
No, we're good.
We're
good.
So be right there.
But with that being said, you're driving back and you said other things are happening. Can you tell what else is happening? What's going through your mind at that point? Or does that? And I want to be honest, if that discloses too much, because you might have to fight again.
Oh, okay.
So I don't want a demon to know what might stop you.
Oh, okay. So about a couple miles later, there's an series of S curves outside of Chesterton on this bike path, and there was this one rider who was just kind of like all dressed up like Lance Armstrong and
Sure.
pedaling like crazy and focused on going as fast as he can around these curves. And I'm, he's in my lane, and I'm getting ready to. I didn't want to go into the other lane, mainly because if he went there, we
Sure.
would get into the stance or something. So I was ready. If he didn't see me, I was just going to jump off the bike. And just before I jumped off, he looked up and skirted out into his lane. But so I go, that never
Right.
happened before. And then go a couple miles more, and there's just two ladies with trailers on the back of their bike with their little babies in there, and so one pulled into through the gate and waited on the road, and the other one pulled through the gate, and they took up the whole road, and I just was right behind them. But there was a ditch on this side. It was pretty tight in the middle there, and then there was a ditch on that side, but there was a little more room, so I was going to just try to go there, but my bike is going real slow, and I said, oh, don't throw me into these babies, and saying to myself,
Right.
and such. And then the car passed, and then I could kind of speed up and get across the street. And then I remember another bike coming across the street there. It was a kind of a busy street,
Sure.
and he had to stop right in the middle of the street, and I heard behind me, oh, I'm sorry, because he had nowhere to go
Oh my
either.
gosh.
So I don't know what happened beyond that, but
Sure.
I was kind of just going forward. And then about another mile or two down the road, there was in the other lane, going my direction, was a mother holding the hand of her little, maybe like a 4-year-old boy who was pulling his little plastic wagon behind him. And I was about ready to zoom past them, and all of a sudden the boy just darts out in front of me.
Oh my gosh.
And I saw that, and I was, I thought, well, I won't hit the boy, but I'll have to hit that wagon, and I don't know, that's going to be, but luckily the mother, just as quickly as the boy darted out, she grabbed him, brought him back, and so I could kind of go past him, but it was like just a
Like an
close
obstacle
call.
course trying to get back,
and I go,
right?
And I go, what is
It's like a series of events from Pet Cemetery or a movie. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Oh, yeah. And then there was it was the Willow Creek Road. It has a school, two schools, a preschool and a Catholic grade school. And going down into it was, I went zooming down into it, and all of a sudden I hear, "Get to the side!" And then I see all these kids getting to the side, there. So I was able to move off to the other side, get around them, and I'm zooming, because you're going fast to get it back up, and if the kids didn't know where to go, I mean, if they went everywhere, one side,
Sure.
I would have.
You would've wrecked out
I
again.
would just have to do, that would be just an ugly thing, and so I got past that, and I go, wow, why would you bring, all 15 kids, they're like, 6 years old or 5-year-olds, down a path like that, all over the place, So, but they obviously were taught if someone comes, just
Sure,
when we say
get
get
over.
this, you just
Right.
so they did have that, but I was going, oh, this is great.
Wow.
and I'm just saying, oh, I can't take this anymore. How much, this I never. I've been riding my bike all these years and nothing even close to anything. And it's, so I go, but after that, that was the last thing. It seemed, I think it finally ran out of energy or
right,
whatever.
because you said that they're feeding off
That
energy and
energy and
eventually
all
they get
that.
tired.
And so there was like nothing. I don't even remember if I saw another person or anything. But I was really, my mind was just racing.
So obviously you're dealing with a powerful demon per se. And I guess back to the question is, has anybody or have you ever encountered the devil himself?
Well, actually, there was a very interesting thing.
Oh boy.
If you ever, if you ever saw the Lost episodes of that Zach Bagans did on, it was after Demon House came out.
Okay.
And he did lost footage, things that weren't in the movie.
Okay.
I
And
did not
so
watch that.
you didn't watch that, okay? Actually, he did a lot of things, there. A lot of the things that are on the cutting room floor are pretty good.
Sure.
So, and we had Chris Fleming was the sensitive that he was going to be able to communicate kind of directly with the demons, but we also had all our instruments and things, so ghost boxes
Sure.
and EVPs and all that. So there's all kinds of things that were kind of happening at that time, and Chris was kind of describing almost what was. He's saying, "Oh, this is here, and there's good, and there's evil. There's this," and he's naming different categories of, there's this and this here, and then he kind of looks back and he sees, the goat-headed demon, but then he sees behind it, this snake-like thing, and I go, "Oh, that's the ancient serpent," And so they,
So he's describing this to
he's
you?
describing
Okay.
all this, but also good, is also, this is like, all of a sudden there's like a big,
Right.
getting ready for a battle royale or something. And so he asked the name of that demon, "What's your name?" And I wouldn't say anything. And he says, why don't you want to say anything? And then he goes, "Michael." And so Chris says, "Oh, St. Michael the Archangel." So he's looking around, thinking he's going to see them, so I'm waiting and don't hear anything. He says, well, I'm Michael. I'm Father Michael, And then all of a sudden there, everything kind of disappears, and he goes, "Everything's gone."
Wow.
So I was going, "Oh, wow, that was, that really kind of affected me, so I wasn't sure, because I was waiting to see, oh, there he is, that's St. Michael, so I wasn't sure what exactly
Sure.
happened, but that was recorded, that was some of the, one of the things that happened that's on his cutting room floor, but he never wanted to reveal that.
So has anything been, I try to, I think a lot of it's sensationalized for film. Let's face it. But with you speaking with us, it brings a lot of credibility. And I know Randy and I kind of disagree a little bit about the how the theatrics were put out insofar as the.
My issue with the Demon House was how it shifted to the other person on the production.
Okay.
I think he's a cameraman.
Oh, yeah.
Got a tattoo on his hand,
Yeah.
and they filmed a lot in the hotel.
Okay. Actually, that was the final half hour of Demon House,
Yeah.
is that.
Sure.
We were going to wrap up the film. We had a plan made in December that we would have that doctor who would go in and measure everything. He did a lot of thousands of cases and such. So he's going to document all the activity and things like that. And then we would come in, and I would do the final blessing, because I was going to. It kind of left the portal open so he could do the things, but I was going to close it at some point. So he agreed to that and such, and then we would seal it all up and cleanse the house and bless it and everything. And then the doctor would come back and
take his readings.
Do his readings, and if everything was clean and clear, then he could sell the house and it should be fine. No one would, have any problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we were going to end the film.
Okay.
But there was one problem I mentioned. He wanted to come that week, and I said, well, we're getting a new bishop. He's going to be installed on Tuesday, and Monday's a big thing there. It's the first weekend in January, which is Epiphany, and also first Saturday and first Friday, and it was very busy. So I wouldn't be able to do that till Wednesday. And he was going to leave on Friday. It was going to be Friday to Friday. So, well, Wednesday, we would do our thing, and then the doctor would come back on a Thursday, and then we would wrap up. So I was waiting for that call, and he never called, And then someone called me. In fact, there was a lady who wanted to invite him to dinner. She did that before, and she was going to invite the crew and everything to dinner. And so she says, "You never called us that, he's wrapping up the movie." The documentary. I says, I didn't think he was even here because he didn't ever call me. And so I ended up calling him. He says, you wouldn't believe what, occurred. So he said, my cameraman went insane, taken over. And we had I had to mess with him, and finally had to let him go. And we had to find someone else to do that. The doctor got sick. And we had to send him back to L.A. and all that. And so he wasn't even here. And he also said he got so infuriated that he wanted to face this thing himself, and he boarded up the house and did all that, but it affected his eyesight. I said, oh my, So he says we'll still go with the plan, but we never were able to complete that plan. So
it's never been closed up. The
so
house is
never,
well, they raised the house,
and then without me knowing, he decides he wants to finish this thing, and so he's upset, that everything's interfering, and he's mad, all this, and so he decides on his own to raise the house, and then without consulting me, because actually he said this was his way to make it safe for everyone, but actually it was the worst, because if it was closed, you could control it, and then if we did wanted to cleanse it, then he could have sold it, and then the people are there to sell it to someone who wants to live there and not make it because I didn't want to get involved in that, to have this be some sort of
attraction.
Yeah. So that was always the agreement, and so the demon prevented that from happening, so that's how the.
So you never finished.
So I never was
so I have
able.
a question.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
Do you want to go back to the property and close it?
Well, we did try as best as we could, because I was kind of thinking, because I heard about it, that it was raised, so I did go out there, and my friend, who was going to help me also kind of close it up, and we're going to, because he's kind of a sensitive, so I kind of needed him to see if anything happened. That it was taken care of. So we went on the muddy property, it was all mud, and walked around. And then during the thing, during what we were trying to do, is I saw a flash come from the sky. And so I looked up, and now his wife was also there, and he was there. I looked up, and no, it's not lightning, and there was a plane going by, but it was just the little blinkers there. It wasn't, and then the wife said, no, there's a flash that came into that tree. she saw in the tree, and I saw it. I just saw it. I was, she was right by the tree, and I was like opposite corner, So, oh, okay. And he says, I don't know what this means, but I see a goat, white goat, tied to the tree. And so I said, I don't know what that means. I said, I think it is symbolic. Maybe it is God is sending maybe an angel to guard the tree from that goat-like demon, So it's white goat, but so.
Or is it attached to the tree?
So it was so it seemed like maybe an angel was attached to the tree. I was just doing it symbolically what he saw, and so but he says it's cleansed. So
so what you did
worked, but it is. See. It would be later on when people would kind of go there, I would hear stories of they would kind of get out of their car and feel something, uneasy, and then get back in their car and drive away. And now others, if you had protection, which is some sort of medal, religious medal, or crucifix or something, that
Am I good?
You could walk by it and not feel anything, and you'd be safe and whatever.
Does this work?
So that would work.
Okay.
Yeah. So you won't feel anything, but don't take it off, because that would be an invite. Now, but others, they would. He also told the story of getting called by the police. When it's his property, that people are coming in the middle of the night, and and candles are
trying to
involved,
open that portal back up.
So it is.
Does that portal disappear at that point and can be opened up somewhere else, or is that portal?
No, it's there.
Just because you sealed it doesn't mean it can't be opened up there again.
No, and so I thought we did kind of seal it. It seems like more of a protection is given, because there's no way to seal it, because we can't. You need the property owners to take ownership and not play games with it. So
Gotcha.
It's opened, so you can't really protect it. So I think this is God's best way that, okay, people unsuspecting will feel something if they go there, and then they kind of back off.
Sure.
But there have been people who I get also all kinds of calls, even people just taking pictures. They have to delete the pictures. They're obsessed with them.
Well, the reason I asked is we're having a gentleman named Chris Lincoln on in a couple days. He's a local ghost hunter.
Okay.
And he was impressed that you were going to be here today.
Okay.
So I just didn't know what the situation was with that property.
But people, they will take things from there. A lot of times it's
Soil.
Soil, bottle caps. Someone took a shingle. From
Why invite that upon
No,
yourself?
and they'll take it to their house, and then something will happen, and I have to tell them how they need to get rid of it. Now most likely you could kind of get rid of it, by throwing it away. And when it's something that no one would really take, or to throw it in a river or something.
Sure.
But even pennies and coins and bottle cap. I mean, they'll just take things and call me about it. And I would just say you have to probably things that will sink. That's the best way. Things that you could kind of hide in a landfill or something. You want it off of. You don't want to put it in anyone's property.
Right.
So, but someone did take dirt, and they actually dumped the dirt on this friend's property, and and then actually he and his wife committed suicide.
Oh my God.
So it's real, and he has been deeply affected. He actually saw the demon in his house.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Had a police. Now it's really tough to actually deal with him, because we want to help him, so he has tried to get most of it out and put it in a landfill.
One speck, though, right? That's all it takes. Is one
yeah,
speck.
so he's been kind of digging.
So maybe
where
we
that
don't
hole
want to
was.
go there ever.
No,
Yeah,
ever.
Yeah. And so he, but he's been affected deeply, and he won't let us come and bless his house, because it's still, still doing things.
Do you think
It
that's
has had a
controlling
fire.
him, though?
Yeah.
That's why he won't.
He won't let. It's actually, it keeps me from helping, So, and we've been, because he's in the South Bend. Actually,
I didn't hear what
area.
you just said. You think it's the demon preventing?
Yeah, and
The demon
Father
gets in
said
these
that. Yeah.
gets in their minds, and they don't, because we need permission to help. He wants it, but then he won't give us the address, and then it affects them. So you could see it just.
Wow.
Um,
So,
Well, I want to flip over. I want to go to ghosts before we run out of time.
Give me one
Yeah.
second. I got one follow up for you, Father. Really quick. You said that the demon has to be invited,
Mhm.
right? So the cameraman and the doctor that
Okay.
were there, how did they get the illnesses? And how, if
Yeah.
they obviously they're not saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
come
Now-
here."
Now, when I had the crew and everything, I always said I had benediction crosses for
Sure.
the blessed, so that they could put on. Zach always wanted to experience that, so you will never would take that. And since I wasn't called in for that, they had those, the doctor and the cameraman and Zach didn't have, and the others did. They did have things that they said they had their own protection, but they didn't. And so you can't go on that property. You can't go on that property. It's an invite.
Because you're inviting.
That
at
is an
that point.
invite without.
Okay.
If you have some protection, you are disinvite. You're not. It's not seen as an invite.
Wow.
Go ahead. I'm with you.
Well, getting back, you said ghosts,
Mhm.
completely different.
Yes, they're human spirits.
Human spirits. So can you explain why they're here?
Yeah, there seems to be something in their life that they fear judgment. And they know if they go into the light, they're going to be judged by God. And they fear they will be in hell. Kind of not realizing that's kind of where they're at, technically, because they're not with God. So if they did come to be judged, they'll find a merciful judge who will help them get over all the undone things that they have. So they would be in what we call purgatory. So they're not, and the difference between purgatory and hell is mainly purgatory, you're moving toward God. But hell, you're stuck. I mean, hell, you're not moving anywhere. And so it's a spiritual state as opposed to a place.
So attachment isn't a reason.
They could also be, they could have delved with this, got involved in occult and witchcraft, or
Well, I guess what I'm getting to is I talk about my grandfather a lot. Okay, and I felt like he's always been with me. I've never got to know him. I was 8 months old when he died.
Okay.
I've explained this on the podcast before.
Okay.
But it took me until I was roughly 21, 22 years old when I had my first experience of actually seeing him.
Oh, you saw him. Okay.
Yeah, I was asleep,
Mm-hmm.
and this is going to lead me to another question too.
Okay.
But I had woke up and just opened my eyes,
Okay.
and standing next to my bed was my grandfather.
Okay.
Just very peaceful.
Oh,
Just
very peaceful. and
very
happy.
peaceful. Yeah.
Happy,
Oh,
okay.
very happy.
Okay.
Yeah, just letting me know that. And
Yeah,
I've had so many like accidents in my life
Okay.
where
Mhm.
I just know I can't explain the phenomena. I just
Yeah.
feel like he's with me everywhere I go. He's my guardian angel.
Oh, okay.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, now you could be a human spirit as a saint, and so your loved ones, you're not, you're kind of limited by God what you can kind of do, but as far as you're usually allowed one sighting, I guess, or one gift if you were praying for someone a lot to get into heaven. Usually they're allowed to kind of give a gift or a little sign that thanking them for all the prayers and things to the person probably praying to them the most. So they're allowed to one person.
Like a
to-
manifestation as well, too?
some sort of, it's usually a unique thing, a sign, or you could see them happy in a dream. Dreams are very common, so, or, you could hear their favorite song. It all kind of differs, but you
And
just
is that
feel their
before
presence.
they go to heaven? Like they can be with us, give us the one gift, and then they're
Yeah, it seems like they are in heaven, and God then allows them, if you give a thank you to one person, each experience is unique, so I can't give you that.
Well,
but it does seem like, and that person is, usually the closest and the most faithful, someone that's really that prayed a lot.
It makes a lot of sense because I had all these experiences of just unexplainable, things that are happening up until I saw him, and then after I saw him.
Yeah. Oh, that was it.
Yeah, it really was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is So
Are they watching us from heaven?
so they do see us. I mean, within reason. I mean, they're not spying, but
No.
but when they do see us in a difficult situation, they pray for us, certainly. So they're interceding like the saints and angels, so that there is one. Now, the guardian angel is your main, spiritual. Everyone does have one of those. Everyone has a guardian angel. That's the main person, but, you could work out through the guardian angel, so through that, the communications, the prayers, the watching, seeing, praying, all
Father,
that.
do you know who your guardian angel is? Have you? Obviously, he's had to be by your side. Probably put in more work than most guardian angels, right?
Yeah, I never really asked. They asked for the name or whatever, but no, I do believe I have a guardian angel. And they're all kind of. I mean, they're all equal.
Sure.
They're humble. They don't want
They're just here to help.
They're here to help, and so I know some ask, and sometimes they do get a name, and such. I didn't really want to go that route. So,
well, Father, we've taken this from very dark to very light, and I'd like to end it with the light here.
Oh, okay.
I want to thank you so much for spending a couple hours with us today.
Sure.
The time does fly when you're having fun.
Okay.
I've learned a lot, and I have nothing but admiration and respect for you, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and if you ever want to come back and talk to us, we love to have you.